Boom. It's nighttime. We're live. We've got 0 people so far. That's great. Oh, okay. Well, this was it's been an interesting, good day, I think, for the most part. Um, just got a nice text, I guess, from a girl that I had been pursuing, interested in seeing. I don't know if she's going to watch this, maybe not. But the content was, we're going in different directions and not going to work out. So it's always interesting getting those because it's good to get the clarity. It's always important. And so off the top of it, you're like, okay, good. This is where it is. This is what's going on. But at the same time, you're always like, ooh. I mean, I don't know. I've got a lot of messages like this. I'll just say that, I guess, right? Like over the years, I'm someone who has been pursuing a marriage or looking for someone, and for a few years, and hasn't happened for me. So I've gotten a few of these, right? So, but you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta shoot your shot. You gotta put yourself out there, and yeah. So there was one person, but I scared them away with the talk, the sad boy news. The other thing that was interesting that's kind of on my mind is my butt hurts really bad because I just did a workout. I just did the Kill the Night Challenge workout, volume 2, at the gym by myself, which was interesting. But let's see what's going on. Yeah, and I had to bail on a front squat, and I had to bail on a front squat. Why is she texting me? Yeah. I had to bail on a front squat, and as I was like underneath it, I had to kind of like I pushed. I was like, I'm not standing this up, so I pushed it out, and I like, how do I put it? I like scooted through it in front, and then I guess the resulting force. I have to look at the video, which I might post as a kind of a bloopers reel, I guess, right? Um, and I like flew back and hit my like landed like kind of on my butt, and had to finish. I had to finish the workout. Thankfully, I got time capped because this was kind of another big one, another kind of insane. I didn't. I actually don't know what we. I don't think we set a time cap for it, but when I was setting it up, I put 10 minutes on because I think going forward, we want to make sure that these workouts are about 10 minutes long. I mean, no more than 10 minutes. I mean, 5 to 10 probably max. Just because we can. Just because we can. Sorry, just thinking. Um, just think about the situation with this person. It's just fucking sad. It's a fucking awesome person. She was just really great and had a lot of fun. And she said so much. Okay. Anyways. Um what is just shitty timing. Because I think I knew that this was gonna happen. Um this episode has been brought to you by FitAid. Yeah, I knew it was gonna happen, but it kind of always, I think it just always sucks when you kind of get the confirmation of that. But anyways, as I was saying, I scooched out from underneath that bar and hit my butt, and um, I had to finish the workout, but I was like limping around, like, oh shit, oh this hurts. and, then, and then when I got time capped, I was like, oh thank God. But then the pain just kind of got worse. It like swelled, got more intense, and then I had to. Um, I was like pacing around, and then afterwards I did a little bit of a bike session. So I went on the bike for a little bit, a little cardio session. So trying to end the day, end the week a little bit on a high note, I guess, kind of knowing what's going to happen regarding this girl, or kind of expecting it, calling it. Um, and yeah, just whew, it is what it is. What can we do? What can we say? Who can say what is in store? Um, cool. What can I? Where can we go with this? I have some thoughts about stuff that I wanted to share today that also were a little bit more deep. Um, I was thinking about this. I guess I was thinking about, and this is kind of a useful tool, I guess, that anyone can use. And this is a little bit more of that kind of mindset stuff, a little bit like mentality, mindset, I guess mental health in a way as well, right? But I think it's important that we have like high ideals in life, right? We all have goals, we have dreams, we have hopes, right? And I think when we're young, we kind of have this sense that some of these things are more natural, right? I think it's easier to be kind of a dreamer when we're younger, when we're in high school, when we're in college, even, right? And I think it's important that those ideals kind of drive us. And I think one of those ways that we can think about ideals is by thinking about two things. One, who is it that inspires us? Who is it that we want to pursue and be like? Who are our role models? Who do we want to be like when we grow up? Right. I mean, that's kind of the basic one. The other one is, um, I guess, and this is something that I think comes with a little bit more maturity or time as you're getting older. Is in my experience, at least I've found, who is it that I look at and I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit jealous of that person, you know? Like, I wish I had that. I want that kind of thing. I think that's really cool. I'm kind of jealous of that thing or that person. And having the sincerity and thoughtfulness, I guess, to kind of understand like what it is about that person that you really appreciate and you really like, right? So, anyways, I think there's a third thing which is more recent. And this I get from this program that I use called Optimal Work, which is a I guess I don't know how to describe it, self help or um, kind of it's kind of like a theory of growth. I guess is sort of like a one way of summarizing, but it's a theory of growth that's created by this professor of neuroscience, and he's a professor at the Harvard Medical School. And he kind of goes into a lot of the neuroscience and kind of psychology stuff. He also has a practice of as a psychiatrist, psychologist. Anyways, he has created this thing called optimal work, which is kind of this theory of growth. So, kind of growth mindset is sort of one part of that model that we have here that we use in that uses in optimal work. One of the kind of thought experiments that I've used in the past, which has been super helpful, and just to kind of get around this like idea, this idea of the like, what are the beauty, what are the ideals, and this does actually have to kind of do with this girl that I am kind of opened up with here, which she literally texted me the moment that we started, um, which is interesting. And I don't think she's gonna watch. So hey, if she does, hey, hi. um, but it's kind of having this idea that this thought experiment, like, do I have ideals that are capable of me working and living at my best? Okay, and what does that look like, right? And so the experiment is this. You kind of basically, I'm going to kind of butcher it perhaps, but basically it's this. You imagine yourself years from now and you're happily married, and I like to kind of imagine that I'm like walking down the stairs or something, and you overhear your spouse having a conversation with someone that you don't know. And this your spouse is basically praising you for the qualities that, what makes you amazing. Like, what is it about you? Um, and the idea is, how clearly can you kind of grasp the things that she's saying or he's saying, your spouse, um, that make you the happiest to hear. So, um, you know, it could be something I don't know. It could be something like, I feel that no matter what happens, he's or she's always cheerful. I can always rely on her to give me helpful advice or thoughtful comments, or someone she's just always there. She's just very attentive, that kind of thing, right? And um, yeah, I think one of the things that this week I've been thinking about, kind of in regards to this person in specifically, was like, and I think it's a reflection of her good qualities, which is how industrious she is. This kind of virtue of work, or this virtue of like hard work, I guess, is one more simple way of putting it, right? So she exemplifies it, and if I feel that if I had been praised by her for that virtue, you know, that would have been super exciting. That would have been super happy. You just feel really happy. So, what does it mean to be a super hardworking, right? Like orderly, intense, constant, not kind of giving into the whims or the distractions or things like that, right? So, anyways, just some thoughts for anyone who hears this. No one live, but that's okay. Maybe someone later in the future. My affiliate. So, anyways, this weekend was pretty low key. I went to a Halloween party last night that had the cops called on it, which is interesting. I hadn't been to a party that had the cops called on it since like maybe a year out of college. So that was kind of fun. That was interesting. Went there with a couple friends, and yeah, I saw a bunch of people that I knew from the kind of the Catholic young adults world here in Alexandria and DC, largely, more kind of broadly speaking. And yeah, it was super fun. Got home super late. Thought that I was going to have a lot of time given back because of daylight savings time. Didn't really happen, so I was up till I don't know, 1 or 2 a.m. or something like that, just for no good reason, just cause. So anyways, just that's where we've been at right now. Um, what else happened? I had a good conversation. I had a cool conversation with someone at this party, which was funny. I'd seen her at different functions, and she's very like dresses very like girly or feminine, I guess you could say, dresses and stuff like that. And I was just hanging out, waiting for in the bathroom line, and I saw someone from across the room, and I looked at her. I was like, oh my gosh, that's her. That's so and so. And it was a Halloween party. I should preface this. She was dressed as Marty McFly from Back to the Future. So, in other words, like a man. And it was super convincing. Like, I mean, this is not like a kind of a more masculine girl, like she, but it was like I was like not expecting that at all. It was hilarious. Um, I had a picture. I have a picture of it, and I won't show it just to protect the innocent. But um, it was fun. It was a good time. It was a good time. Um, so, anyways, what else? Went to a 3-year anniversary party for the gym, the neighborhood. So Adam Murphy and a bunch of the other guys from the gym were there, and had a great time there, talking to people and having good conversations with everyone. Um, and what else did we do? Um, that's about it. That's about it for the crazy weekend stuff, for the weekend ish. Just besides chores and that kind of thing. Ooh, so looking forward, one big thing that's going to happen this week is hopefully I'm going to be able to distribute the rest of the t-shirts that I had made for the CrossFit Games. So the CrossFit Games t-shirt that I had, the fifth fittest. You can see the design on my page. I will kind of repost that on my Instagram. But that was super fun, and yeah. So getting a couple pictures from friends who I gave the shirt to. So hopefully I'll post pictures of the shirts in the wild in the next couple of days, and that'll be super fun. So Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a good week. First week in November, first full week. We got the election on Tuesday, so that's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be exciting no matter what happens, right? A couple friends I think who work in the city have I think their bosses have said not to come in during the day of the election or the aftermath, just kind of work from home. So there's a little bit of a sense that like no matter what happens, no matter who wins, there's gonna be a riots and stuff like that in the city, in the capital, which I believe. I think um, the other thing is so be safe. We'll be safe here in Alexandria. We're not super close to the capital, directly in the line of destruction, I guess. But what else is going to happen? Yes, I'm going to go vote with a friend of mine, then go to an election party afterwards here in Old Town. So that'd be fun. Gosh, might as well just bring up my calendar. Yeah, just maybe a week in review, week ahead. Um, wow, wait, hold on. Is that right? Okay, yeah, here we go. Yeah. Oh, how can I kind of forget this? We had an awesome conversation with Roderick. We had an awesome conversation with Roderick on Friday, so a couple days ago, and I've been sort of still digesting some of the things he shared with us, which were super interesting, super helpful. And I can just kind of briefly cover them here right now. Which was one thing was basically, and when this was one of the big things I wanted to ask him to get his opinion um, about like what's the next step for CrossFit in the adaptive world. And he was basically that there should, because I there was milestones, right? We have the milestone of having adaptive divisions at all in CrossFit Games. Then we have the milestone of having the adaptive divisions stand on their own as their own event, which is what happened this year, which was a big milestone, which is super important and awesome. And then we have another milestone of like, okay, well, what's next, right? So where do we go from here? So I asked Roderick that question, and um, his take was interesting. He was basically that I think we need to be able to attract big sponsors. And as I was thinking about that more, I was wondering what that means, right? What does it mean to be a big sponsor? Because we had sponsors this year. We had Northern Spirit, we had Pliability, but I guess maybe those would be more considered sponsors that don't go really beyond the CrossFit space, maybe. So maybe like a sponsor like Nike. But even like big sponsors like that don't really come up for they don't really come up for the games themselves. So I guess we can kind of look at the games and see. I mean, most of those sponsors are also, I guess, more CrossFit specific brands. So, anyways, but again, it's I guess what I'm pointing at here is that there's an interesting question about what that means. Like who is a big brand? Like, what does that mean? Who counts as a big brand in this case? Um, Is it someone like Hard Work Pays Off, HWPO, right? Because they're a big CrossFit brand, and they were like the title sponsor of Crash Crucible. Or are we talking about like bigger companies like Rad or Noble or something like that, right? What do we mean by bigger sponsor? So, yeah, anyways, interesting stuff. So, what's another thing? So again, I was thinking about, okay, well, there's not too many people here on this platform right now watching, but how can us as athletes bring in more sponsorship? How can we bring in more interest? And I think it maybe comes down to, I mean, it just comes down to eyeballs. It comes to individual accounts. It comes down to people who are able to bring attention to adaptive CrossFit. It comes down to eyeballs. And I guess this is another interesting question, because I'm thinking about, I mean, even just I'm testing this a little bit in my head as I think aloud here. Even someone like Andrew Hiller, or I don't know, Sivan, or someone like Brian Friend, these guys have big followings. They have lots of eyeballs, obviously, like they can bring a big attention to the space. And yet that's still not really enough necessarily at this point to bring in big sponsors to CrossFit, you know, the able-bodied games, I guess, right? So again, it just means kind of like what's a big sponsor? I mean, when we think about um, the CrossFit Games being on ESPN, right? Okay, does that mean that ESPN is a sponsor? I guess in some sense you could say that it is. So is that the milestone that we want to kind of have the same sort of visibility in terms of the broadcast? I don't know. I think that's an interesting question. Um, I guess what it makes me wonder is too is like what is okay, if having a big sponsor is the next big milestone, what would be the next milestone after that? And then after that, right? What do we care about having happen in the CrossFit space, and then what does that look like? So, anyways, um, yeah. This message just keeps coming up to my mind, but I'm not going to read it right now. I want to read it. I want to reread that message. I want to look at what she said and think about it more. But I think that's kind of part of it. That's part of someone who there's a certain, and this is something I think I also learned from optimal work. There's a certain like, I wouldn't call it sick pleasure because it's normal, it's natural to some extent, but like we like if you are an angry person, for example, like if you're someone who gives into anger a lot and you have a lot of, you have temper issues, right? Um, there's a certain like there's a certain like neuroscience, I think, chemical pattern that you're reinforcing with your anger. And so now that every time that you give into your anger, every time you give into that kind of urge or craving, I guess you could say almost, right? You're reinforcing that pattern, that behavior. And that, I mean, it could be behavior, it could be a pattern of thought, it could be a pattern of behavior as well, I think, right? Anyways, so I think for me, what's going on maybe is that it's more of a like there's a certain kind of satisfaction that you might get from having that kind like indulging that anger, indulging those feelings. And so it's not necessarily like, oh, I like feeling sad. I want to read that message because I like feeling sad. I like, it's not. I don't like that message. It's sad. It makes me feel upset. Um, as it should. Like it's normal. I think, and that's a normal thing. Like I was really disappointed. I'm disappointed by that. I mean, it makes sense. I'm not angry. I'm not overly like this. Like there's not a lack of justice here or something like that. It's like this kind of normal thing that happens, but it's sad. So there's part of your mind. Okay, how like there's a satisfaction like feeling that sadness again. I think for some people, maybe, and for me too. I mean, and I don't think it's sadness for a lot of people, necessarily everyone, but I think that's a little bit of how it is for me, feeling that kind of um, yeah, I guess it's satisfaction. It's not that I like feeling sad, but I guess it's also like a prediction thing, right? Like if I can predict what will make me feel sad or what will kind of give me that feeling of loss or something, right? Then there's something that I can control in that kind of situation. And again, I'm getting kind of super weird and deep here, so forgive me if you're super bored or like weirded out by this stuff, but you can kind of say that there's a satisfaction also to the prediction of it. Like, oh, I feel sad. I know that this is going to make me feel sad if I look at her text. And then I look at it and then I feel sad. And there's a certain satisfaction from having that control or having that kind of sense of prediction. Here's my prediction, and then it's met, right? And I think that's natural. I think that's normal. I think that's kind of how we're wired, right? We want to have the effect come from the cause. Like our brains are literally wired that way for cause and effect. I think there's an interesting book that I read that I think deals with this maybe in a little bit of an interesting way, which it's called. I'm going to draw a blank. Watch. What's the book called? I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna look at the book. I'm gonna look at my what's it called? Yo, we got one person here. I don't know, anon, unless they declare themselves. We're having super deep. We're in our feels tonight, right now. We're deep in our feels. We got a sad text message right before I went on, just as I was going on, and read it live. Didn't read it aloud, of course, but we're in our feels. Oh yeah, they're gone. I don't know who that is. Anyways, Influence. It's called Influence. Influence by Robert P. Cialdini. I don't know if that's actually how you say it, but anyways, so in this book, Influence, there's studies apparently that they've done. It's basically a kind of a sales and marketing book. When I was working in marketing stuff and sales stuff, we covered. I wanted to read this book as sort of a professional enrichment or professional development book, and the book was super interesting, super helpful. But one of the things that I found interesting was that they've done studies on this, that you can kind of hack the the way our minds work or the way our brains work. And one of those is through this prediction bias. We have a bias for wanting to see predictions in the world around us, I think, which is one way of thinking about it. Like, we want to see, there's a certain satisfaction from the cause and the effect that's super deep and super important for us, I think. When I put in this amount of effort, when I plant the seed, I see the growth of the plant. When I say this thing happens. Like, there's a cause and there's effect. And I think, this is not like rocket science, right? But one way that this book suggests people who are doing marketing or trying to influence other people's behavior, which is sort of what sales and marketing is, right? Is by using one keyword. He said, if you can use this one word in your ads or in your marketing material, it makes a huge difference. And the word is because. So you say stuff like, because, I think you could start a sentence. You could start the sentence, or you can kind of make it like a subordinate clause, right? Because I planted the seed, the plant grew, and now I have food on my table, or, you know, um, this CrossFit athlete was able to achieve that PR because they were using their frog grips, because the frog grips were able to stick onto the whatever, right? You get the point, right? There's nothing super complicated about it, right? But anyways, curious if anyone can hear that, but there's like people walking outside my door, which is right here. Anyways, yeah. So anyways, long story short, kind of on the kind of more emotional, goal setting, like looking back at the week, this was like an important part of my week, right? Thinking about like, what are the ideals that are super important for me to live. If I could hear my spouse, who I'm happily married to in the future, praising me to someone I don't know for the way I treat her, what would make me the happiest to hear? Again, this is that thought experiment that Kevin Majors talks about in Optimal Works, right? Optimal Work, which you can check out, by the way. I do suggest that for anyone who's watching or thinks this is interesting. Optimalwork.com. Optimalwork.com. So anyways, this thought experiment kind of helps to kind of get clear, like, what is it that really matters to you? If you were in this kind of mode of, I want to get a promotion, and then I want to get another promotion, and then I want to get another promotion. Speaking of milestones, right? Speaking of milestones related to CrossFit even, right? What's the next milestone? We have a big sponsor. Okay, what's the next milestone after that? Okay, we have two big sponsors. Okay, what's the next milestone after that? Okay, we have mainstream media coverage on ESPN. Okay, what's the next milestone after that? Right? There's an infinite number of milestones that we could get. And say we are someone who achieves all of them. Like, say we're someone who like is able to achieve those things, those results. Okay, like, would we have happiness? Would we achieve happiness? I mean, I think there's a certain satisfaction that we can get from chasing those goals. We can reach from just kind of the innate kind of rush of setting a goal and then achieving it or not achieving it, and then re-strategizing, and then. But at the end of the day, I think we have, at the end of the day, we have to have that why shining super brightly in our minds and hearts, right? At the end of the day, I think it's that kind of, why do I do this? Well, because my spouse thinks that I'm awesome because I do X, Y, and I am X, Y, and Z. I have these qualities to my character, to my personality. And that's intrinsically motivating. And it intrinsically motivating no matter what level of success you have. Success by some standards, right? Are we living according to the success of, money? How much money? Like, what is it going to take to make us happy? I think a lot of people, the wisdom of my tradition in the Catholic Church, at least, is that the saints are people that kind of realize that there's only one thing that can satisfy them at the end of the day, and it's God, right? And other things for the sake of God. Anyways, so I'm not going to try to get like super spiritual. I don't want this to be kind of some sort of Bible study talk or something like that. But I think this kind of gets at that point of um, the human grounding of this. But because I think the famous story that kind of illustrates this in the most clear way, which I'm probably not doing super clear, but let's clear it up right now, which is that they say that Alexander the Great, who was this great conqueror, he conquered all of the world, the known world at the time, basically. Actually, now that I think about it, Alexandria, where I live, is named after him, right? He named all these places all over the world after him. Not Alexandria, Virginia necessarily, but other Alexandrias that we inherited the name from. um, he conquered the world. He conquered everything, and they say that he wept. He wept when he realized there was nothing else to conquer. There's no other place. There's no other people. There's no other civilization that he had left. And I think it's really sad in a sense. In a sense, I think it makes me feel sad sometimes when I think about people who, it's like, I want another promotion. I want more money. I want another vacation. Um, and everyone's on their own journey. And I think, I don't say this by way of judgment of anyone, but it's kind of like, I wonder if they reach that point like Alexander did sooner or later, where they say, why? I don't know. Why? Why did I do that? Why did I get the promotion? Why did I sacrifice so much for this? And this is one of the things why I think it's interesting and important for me as someone who is now in the CrossFit space to some extent, right? It's important, it's interesting to keep things ordered, keep the priorities ordered. My life is not all about CrossFit. And I don't think it should be, right? CrossFit's an important part of my life right now, and that's good. That's cool. That's great. That's important. But it's not like it's of relative importance, like there's relatively speaking much more important things to be worrying about or thinking about sometimes, right? So, I think that's why it's, I think that's why you hear people talk about, oh, CrossFit ruined my life, or being like, competing in CrossFit was like such a major thing, and like, what was it for at the end of the day, blah blah blah. And I think it's that same thing. Is they're living in that same mentality of like that Alexander did. Like, it's just about the next goal. It's just about the next milestone, or it's just about the next satisfaction. It's just about the next promotion. It's just about the next raise. It's just about the next kind of big project that I finish, or that I get a pat on my back from my boss or my friends or my family. The praise, the validation, which we all crave, which is natural and normal. And I want it too, obviously. So, anyways, boom. What should we do here? What should we talk about? We're at 35 minutes here, which is that's a good time. That's a good length. let's do a little bit more week ahead stuff. Or no, let me look at my calendar here one more time. See if there's anything interesting to cover regarding week in review. Week in review. Week in review. Um. Oh yeah, I think I mentioned this on my Instagram. I don't know if anyone caught it, but um, I've been doing like more grip strength work, right? So grip strength work is something that makes a big difference. And I don't know if you can see my middle finger here has this. It's not like a callus. It's like a um, it's like a blister, but it's like turning into a callus, but it's kind of painful. I don't want to remove it till it heals a little bit more. But I got this because I was doing um, like an EMOM, basically an EMOM where I hang from the bar for about 10 seconds, 5 to 8 seconds, and then I take a rope in the remaining time, and I do 5 like almost like ring rows. So I'm kind of like laying back and pulling the rope and grabbing the rope with my hand. So I'm kind of working on the grip strength from the perspective of the rope, and then also from the perspective of the kind of the overhead hang. Um, so anyways, I think it's just been a lot of pressure, and just like I think I did that like maybe 3 or 4 times, so not even that much, but it's like blown up my grip. And I think there was a workout this week that um there was a workout this week that I couldn't do the toes to bar because it was just I like jumped up on there and I was like, oh hell no, like that's that sucks. That hurts really bad. So I jumped right off. But anyways, another thing that and I guess this is another thing to stay tuned, but just because I have it here on my desk, I got heavy handed cream RX. So I've been using this kind of every day. So hopefully to kind of mitigate some of the pain, you know, expedite the healing process on that hand because that grip. Anyway, so if any heavy handed wants to sponsor me, give me help support this show, help support adaptive CrossFit Brian here. That'd be cool. I've got one hand. It's a pretty heavy hand, I guess you could say, and we got to take care of it. So, anyways, I think that'd be kind of that's a cool little message, right? I think that's important, right? Gotta take care of yourself. You gotta take care of yourself. So, speaking of taking care of myself, I'm gonna dip. I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna get off here. So, it's been lovely speaking with you, everyone. I'm gonna do just a little bit more chores. I gotta shower. Gotta finish some dinner here. And then I'm gonna post this video, I think, hopefully too. So tonight that'll be good. So, anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Good night. Good luck. Godspeed.